Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Scaling Deep podcast. I have another amazing membership business owner here with us today, a fellow British Columbian, Lynda Monk, and her membership is the International Association of Journal Writing. And I'm so excited to hear more about this because she's had this membership for quite a while. So it's great to hear about longevity and long-lasting membership. So welcome, Lynda. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lisa. I look forward to chatting membership together.
Yeah. So why don't you just start by telling us a little bit more about your program and as much as you want to share with us about getting it started and where it's at now.
Sure. Well, in terms of getting it started, it existed previously. In 2009, the organization was founded by Ruth Follett, this wonderful woman who lives in Florida. And she was slowly growing it as a membership community. Among other things, it had a journaling store. And she basically had to stop it for personal reasons. So it sat dormant for a couple of years. And, she was trying to decide whether she should just let it stop or should there be a successor. And I ended up acquiring it 6 years ago. Over 6 years ago, I spent a year before that recreating it, rebranding it, making a new website, doing all the e-commerce stuff, setting up the infrastructure for membership. So even though it existed before, it essentially started from scratch again. There weren't any current members. There was a small email list that had been stale for a couple of years. So it did have some goodwill, and it had some people that, remembered it. And there was a journal council, which were really people at the time that were there by name to show the vastness of the journaling field and people doing research and writing books and so forth in the field. So it had that entity. So I carried on basically with how Ruth had originally started it. And I thought I'll just kind of go with the vision that she had for it. And then I started to, as I stepped into it, and again, it did start from scratch, even though it had this history. I then started to more take it in, what did I want for it moving forward, and what were my dreams for it, honoring the history that it had. So it launched as the new IAJW in January of 2018, and been going ever since. So it has two parts. We have an e-commerce store with over 60 products, online courses, and different journaling tools and opportunities, online retreats. And then we have our membership offering, which is an annual membership, and it's specifically for journal writers. That can be new journal writers, they can be avid journal writers for decades. And our whole mission is to help people enrich their lives through journaling, and of course, create that sense of awakened living through personal writing and personal story, which of course contributes to positivity in our world as well. So we're really on a mission to change the world through journaling, as
Yeah. Okay.
ambitious as that is.
That's great. So what an interesting story. I didn't realize, because I know we talked a long time ago we met, and I didn't realize that it had already started. So the concept was there in a way, but at the same time, it was dormant. Like you didn't have anything going on in there. So it really was like a rebirth. Mm-hmm. How do you attribute what do you attribute the success of it still being a thriving entity this many years later? Like I'm just going to dive right in because I could ask you so many things, but let's go to this really big thing. Like what's the reason why it is still successful, do you think?
Hard work. Showing up every single
answer.
day.
Thank you.
Showing up every day, using smart business practices. It is a business, and it isn't a hobby. It is something that requires having a good marketing plan and list growth and regular email communication, all the things that is required. There's so many things we can do to grow any type of business, but at the heart of all of them is creating that know, like, and trust factor, and showing people what we have to offer can benefit their lives and help them with things that maybe are challenges in their lives. So we don't just teach about how to journal. That's certainly part of it, but in its essence, it's pretty straightforward. The practice of journaling, what becomes really exciting is the inspiration that comes from connection and community, because our creativity is fueled by connection, and our ongoing inspiration for any personal development practice in our lives, which journaling is one of them, really benefits from ongoing inspiration, ideas, education, things that help people really deepen their practice and have a sense of identity with other people. Journaling is in itself a solitary private practice, and we really approach it as a community building practice as well.
It's got a very specific thing you're focused on. So it's not confusing, like, what does this membership do? But it's also written like rich and in depth enough that then people will stay, right? As opposed to just learning how to do a thing. I mean, that's really the secret to a successful membership, is having a very specific thing that people can join and know that they can get help with, but then also having it be interesting enough to keep people, because their life is enriched because of it. And that's the perfect formula. Thanks for helping me articulate that.
Their lives are greatly enriched. And that's what really inspires me. I get notes all the time from our members, and people love, I do 2 live monthly events as well, because it's not just content generation and feeding people more and more content. It's helping them have experiences that they really enjoy, that they love to come to, that they look forward to. And so 2 of our live monthly events, I host a Writing Alone Together circle based on a book that I co-authored by that title. So it's a specific practice that I take people through. And members love it. We do, it's fun, it's inspiring. We go very deep into the writing. There's lots of sharing. People get to hear from each other, see what other people write. That event is very popular. And I also record the front half of that, where I take people through the writing exercise, so that it is an international community. So there is always the challenge of getting a timing. So I record that. So if people couldn't have the benefit of being in the circle, they can still benefit from the teaching and the experience of the writing themselves. And then I do a guest interview. I call them Zoom chats with guest expert interviews that members can come to live on Zoom. I do an interview for half an hour and then open it up for questions and conversation. So they get to meet these awesome authors and expert in the field. And then there's all kinds of other member benefits. And people, I've done surveys of our membership because we have many hundreds of members. What do they like about being a member? And people love the chance to come together. They also really appreciate the ongoing communication. I do a monthly member newsletter, which I really try to make, valuable and inspiring. I do a weekly journaling newsletter. That's not just to our members, but I have over 11,500 subscribers to that I send out to every week. So growing an email list is really important to growing a membership. Because the people who read that newsletter and like it and get something from it are the people who then at some point may become a member.
Well, and I think your main list and your podcast or whatever it is you're doing for visibility or nurturing. I mean, I say my members are always listening to my podcast, and it's free content, but it's like they get that foundational content in different ways. And that's like updates of what's going on. And then they can discuss it inside their membership. So it's like, you can go the next level by having a conversation with me about it, or just understanding my approach to things and then using the trainings. But it's like, we can always use those things for more. Like, it's great to let your members get all access to everything and make sure they know it's there, because it's valuable, even if it's free. Like my mentor has just put out a podcast. And I'm like, I love listening to it, because it's just extra in depth for the kinds of things that I'm learning from her and knowing how to learn, and then what to ask for in it. It's great. I love that.
I think growing a membership really also involves like being clear on what your membership is about, who it's for, how it helps them, like a very defined, as you said, specific area. And because there's so much content online, there's lots of membership and subscription model types of organizations. And what can make your membership stand out? And one of those things is who you are as the creator of the membership, as the, behind the scenes doing all the things that keeps it running, including the technology. But really thinking about, what do you uniquely bring to your membership? Who are you? What might people benefit from in connecting with you and learning from you and spending time with you? Being really passionate about your topic, because there's a lot of the things about running a membership that are in that passion zone. For me, I love writing, so I love writing my weekly newsletter. I love speaking, so I like to do podcast guesting to help, share that we even exist. And to share value and conversation. And there's also lots of things about running a membership that are not in my zone of brilliance or passion, but that I have to learn to run it, some of the more technical aspects of it, and then getting help. So I have a wonderful team member, Duncan, who I work with 3 hours every week, just on the website infrastructure and keeping all the technology working well. Had to learn so much about that. So as a membership owner, really knowing, like, what's your zone of brilliance? What's your area of passion? What are you here to do? What are the things you'll need to do to run a successful membership over time that may be things you have to learn or outsource or build team around, because we can't do it all on our own. There's a lot to know to run a good membership site.
I think you can start small though and wing it to a point, because people will be fairly patient with you're figuring out things or adding the complexity to the system. Like, it doesn't. So I think that, but over time, knowing like what's holding you back from growth, because you're not spending time growing, you're spending time on the details that are not your zone of genius. 100%. Like, you've got to really figure out, like, what do I need to outsource now because I don't like it and I'm not any good at it. Yeah, that's smart. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got it growing, and did you have a background in any of this? So I'd love to hear a little bit of that origin story beyond you're deciding to do this thing or buy this thing or acquire this thing. How did you actually turn it into a membership again?
Well, I'd been an entrepreneur for many years prior to this, in my own training and coaching business. So I knew
you had some background, like you started with a savvy about this online game.
Certainly not an expert, but enough knowledge to take the step forward. And I decided that there's a lot of things we can do to grow in the online space. It's good to pick 2 or 3 things and do those consistently than try to do everything. So, for example, I could really improve my social media. Every part of that I could improve, but it's not something I'm really that interested in, but I know it's important to do. So that's an area I'm working on, just it's one of my goals to grow and get a little bit better with. So I started out with my businesses prior to growing a membership community had always been me as a solopreneur,
right?
Me just doing my thing. I'd book my trainings and I would do them, and I would have coaching clients and I would serve them. But that was not a one-to-many model. That was me to who I was serving. And so it required a mindset shift to kind of, what does a membership community actually mean? How do I feel I can be a good leader in it and serve it in some way? And so I thought, well, what have I learned about business in the last 20 years? What things could be relevant to growing this type of business, a membership model? The other was the e-commerce. I had never had, I'd had a small, I had a business called Creative Wellness, which really moved to be solely in the journaling space. I was doing lots of Writing to Heal programs with helping professionals. I'm a social worker by background, a life coach, and I did a lot of work for a number of years in the area of burnout prevention, compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, things related to the occupational hazard. But that didn't have an e-commerce. That was through Thrive Training and Coaching. Creative Wellness was all my journaling work. it had a small e-commerce store where I sold an ebook and I had online registration for group coaching programs and so forth. But I knew when I took the step, I didn't know exactly, but I knew eventually I would need to become more knowledgeable about what is it to host an e-commerce store and to create product offerings and course offerings on a large, more. And not just what I was creating, but working with other people on their creation. So some of our course offerings are created, for example, by our Journal Council members, because I like, I like the organization to be a place that can really shine a light on, promote other people's great work in the field.
Yeah, that's a great point too. You don't have to be that leader all the time. Other people you can demonstrate their growth and leadership and success and skills.
Yeah, their offerings. And, that's done through a commission model. So I had to learn, think about how to do that.
Nice.
I've just started an affiliate program to help grow our membership. So not for products in our store, but just for our membership. So that's something that's new this year that I'm slowly learning more about. And, one of the things I've learned is that all of these things are a world unto their own.
Yeah,
to run a good affiliate program is a skill set. How do you get good affiliates? How do you support them to promote it? How do you create lots of win-win opportunities for people? Running a store and populating a store and doing good product creation, that's a whole skill set. Having a membership community, serving members, retaining members, all of that is a skill set. So there's a lot of moving elements that are always needing, that are there.
Well, you need to layer them and focus on the priorities. And I think that's what's challenging for people when they're getting started is they don't know what to focus on, and they get excited about all these bright, shiny objects. It's like, don't even think about affiliate until you've already mastered your own sales system. And because that you have to actually show what the numbers are to get good affiliates. And so there's all these things that we get confused with. And so what are some of your simple, tell us maybe a little bit more about when you started, what were those simple things that you could do? How did you open up the doors? I just curious to know how you went from this thing doesn't really exist, but it's kind of there. Did you just re-invite the old members to it? Did you have a leg up for that with a warmer audience or your own audience brought in?
I wouldn't say that. No. I decided that right away I would start a newsletter because that's what helped me grow my other business was to make sure that I was growing regularly, doing list building activities. And that's still a core part of my business model is regular list building activities.
And how do you get people on your list? What's your primary?
Yeah, I do that through, there's those two ways with list building. You can do that slow, one by one, having a free gift offering that people opt in for that you can promote on social media or where you might, choose to do that. And then there's more of those larger list building events where you can host a summit or you can host a giveaway event. And I do both of those things. So I go to the Page Speaker Series Summit in June, and I host a high five. I did 4. It was my 4th go to the Page Speaker Series in June, and in September will be my 2nd high five gratitude giveaway. And so those are collaborative, list building. And I love doing those. And I also participate in some of those where I will be a summit guest or I will participate in someone else's giveaway. But I do that very selectively to make sure the things are relevant to my readers, because I don't just want to do, have a whole bunch of offerings constantly going at people. And
no, it doesn't always work. Yeah. Some people have an
have
audience really conducive to wanting those and others don't. It's really interesting, the models. Yeah.
But, to simplify, because I think it is important to simplify in order to actually create success. If you try to do everything all at once, it can become very overwhelming and you can get burnt out yourself to do it. So I would say to have a very clear offering. What does your membership offer? How much does it cost? How does someone buy it? And how does that buying process go smoothly? And that's where the technology matters. Yes, you can wing it, but however you're winging it better work, because if it's too tough for people to buy it or they get all kinds of errors, they just won't stick around. So you need a good system, and it can be a simple system. And so have the offering and build your list. And you could build your
Totally.
list by having a free gift, doing these other things. And I think those are the two key things. Keep growing your email list and keep articulating your offering and how it can help people and inviting people to join you. And those two things I think are
So
really
that's what, yeah.
key.
So you focused on list building right from the get-go and then making that offer really irresistible, which is sort of how I say it. It's like, make sure your offer is clear and irresistible so that when you are inviting people back from a big event to join your thing, it's very like, oh, this is exactly what makes sense for my next step.
And sometimes it's the nurturing over time. So people, I could probably do better on clear and irresistible. We can all always do better on our
Yeah.
messaging and our funnels and all the pathways, the client customer journey or the client journey. All of those things can continually improve. And part of how they improve is to ask people who are already in the membership, ask for testimonials. What do they like? How is it helping them? Because their feedback is good for me to know what I should focus on more. And it's also great for other people to hear what existing members have to say. And it doesn't always have to stay the same. Like I've added new member benefits over
Yeah.
time. There's other things I've lessened. And I will continue to keep honing like what is our membership? The other is we only have
It
an
changes.
annual membership. So it's
Yeah. So why do you do
140.
that?
It's the technology. It's simple. Here's our offering. It's not a big ask price. It's 147 US a year. So
Right. So it's at the price
it's
point
not,
that makes sense.
yeah. And
Yeah.
but my next step is I would like to tier the membership to have a monthly membership option, the annual and a lifetime believer membership, which would be a higher price and include more
Mhm.
member benefits. So that's a 2024 goal, is to really start to think that through. There's a lot of technical aspects to that, both in the cart, but with our store. Yeah, there's just a lot of technical aspects to tiering. So
Yeah.
because
Tiering is interesting. And how many members do you have?
we've had since I started just under 1,000, and we have over 400 active members right now.
Right. Which is, a lot of people want to start with tiers really quickly. And I mean, I definitely don't think that's a great idea because it's confusing. But when you've got members already and you know that there's like the membership is starting to evolve and there's still a case for something fairly simple or bite-sized for the amount that people are actually using. And then there's this real different user level, right? So I think it can make sense at that point, or simply just a bigger program that can still operate monthly in a way that has got, whether it's a selling later or inviting in or application or whatever. I think it makes sense over time, but I like the idea that you establish the base first. It's taken you a long time to sort out that core part, right? Before you would even consider that. And I just see so many people talking about it so fast. And I think it can work, but it can also just be a total mess. And then you won't know what's a mess. When you start offering too much too quickly, you won't even know what it is that didn't work out as well because there's just too much going on. So I
Yeah.
love that you're step by step building something solid. And that's the secret to having something last so long.
Yeah. And my goal is for this to last long into the future,
Yeah,
to have a legacy component to it, to have a contribution component to it for the organization to be able to, be able to donate to causes relevant to
it's
literacy
amazing.
and other things. So I have big, big dreams for it. And in a lot of ways, I'm just getting started and I'm learning as I go. There's tons I don't know. And I try, there's times where I try to take on too much with it at once, and I'm really
Mhm.
learning that, okay, this is my focus right now. I have annual goals, then I break those down to quarterly goals, and I break those down to monthly goals, and then what do I have to do this week, and then what do I have to do today? And I really work very diligently. Like all my goals are written down, and I have dates for when different things are
Yeah.
due. And you have to be very self-motivated and organized because there isn't anybody there waiting for anything at all there. you know it's not like
But
when you
even
have a
actually,
client.
when you have coaching and mentorship, and this is what I find so interesting is that people ask a lot like, will this program, the Scaling Deep Society, help me to get to this goal or help me create this thing? And I I have such an honest answer. It's probably not, it's super strong sales tactic, but I'm like, sure, but it's totally up to you because there's no such thing as just a great idea that takes off without getting out there. And it's interesting because even when you do buy into programs or into high level mentorship, that person cannot lead you. You have to, like, I have people who I mentor at a higher level, but it's still self-led. So the time we spend together during calls, I can work out the plan and we can decide on what's valuable and I can provide my feedback, but they still have to go off and do the work. Like there's no one who's ever going to be as invested in your business as you to be able to say, oh, by the way, I haven't heard from you for a month. Have you done that? Have you done that thing? Because if you're not motivated to do that thing and question and go, oh, I'm getting stuck, and reach out to that coach or mentor and say, I'm stuck. How do I help me get back on track? That you're asking someone to think for you and be you. And that doesn't exist. Even if you're paying somebody thousands of dollars per month for their support, they still cannot be in your brain following your day-to-day activities. And so that is something we really need to recognize, is when we're stuck, when we need to ask for help, how we do it, how quickly we do it, how often we do it, and just get in the habit of never staying stuck for very long, because then we'll just not do the thing, not get productive. Because it's easy to say, oh, I have these goals, because we all have goals, but the amount of people who don't actually get to the goal because they get stuck and they forget to get unstuck somehow, or don't use a tool or system to do it. So I'm curious to know, actually, it's actually interesting, leads to an interesting question for you, is that when you say, I've got goals, I do these things, there must be times where you just are like, I don't even know what to do with this today. So how do you get through it?
Well, I have a mastermind group that I can bring any type of challenge to any month and get feedback from successful entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. And I have a mastermind buddy, one woman that I have monthly, we do one-to-one mastermind with each other. So we each bring something, and she's in a similar type of, she doesn't have a membership, but she has an online e-commerce business in the coaching space. So we have very similar strategies that we use in our businesses, or growth, plans and so forth. So I have regular access to people I can turn to, and that's huge. And also really showing up every day. Like there's not a day, I mean, you take days off, of course. I just was on a holiday and came back last night. But even then, there's something daily that I'm doing to check into my business. And I learned a long time ago that there's a big difference between working on our businesses and working in our business. There's lots of business as usual tasks, like answering email and just all the operational aspects of having anything that we're running and leading. But then there's the tasks that are actually, what are things that will grow it? And it's very easy to think we've done a full day on our business, and maybe people have been on social media or been on their email and doing all these things. But what grew your business today? What action did you take that was about growing your membership? And I'm clear on what are my essential tasks that are about managing it, and what are my essential tasks for growing it. And those get informed over time. Those change over time. I learned something new, and it's like, okay, I need to improve my funnel, for example. Really have an awesome funnel. That's something I need to, work on right now.
And you don't know what you don't know. Like, I find the work that I do on that is really tracking all those numbers and those details. So, and then actually sending it to my mentor and saying, like, what do you think? Like, where's the gap here? And she tells me where the gap is. And that's where you can't even figure out what the problem is on your own, knowing what to work on, because we all have limited time. And it's one thing to say, like, oh, you could do all these things, but like, if you were not at a level where affiliates, for example, was going to make a measurable difference, but there was 10 other things that would make a measurable difference, you've got to work on those projects first, because you also, as a solo entrepreneur, as any business, even as any big business now, when they started small, they could not afford to have 10 people working on all these projects, because if 8 of them failed or took too long, that we'd run out of money before we'd even get a chance to see anything work. So we've got to be very strategic in what we work on.
And, you said an important word, and that's measurable.
Yeah.
business owners need to know their numbers, and it's amazing how many
Yeah.
don't, because I've done coaching with lots of small businesses,
Yeah.
and you know, we need to know what we need to measure. What are the measures you take note of?
Yeah.
So I take note of, you know, every month, how has my list grown? I know how many people there are at the beginning of the month, and I know how many people there are at the end of the month. How much organic traffic is coming to the website? Because in business, if you're online, you know, the formula for success, and people don't often want to look at this stuff because it's not the necessarily fun
Yeah.
and interesting stuff, but it's, you know, how much traffic you get, how much of that converts, and, you know,
Well, yeah,
buy
and that's the
something,
thing that I
is how
focus on
much
is all
money you
conversion.
have.
I don't
Yeah.
even look at the number. Oh, I do, but I only look at the number of people landing to check the conversion rate, because I'm not looking at visibility yet as much as I'm looking at what is happening when they are arriving. And because that's the whole critical part, is that you can easily scale the visibility. You can easily get way more people coming in, like in traffic, if you know it's going to be converting. And so that's like so important. And I just tell people all the time, like, what's your conversion rate?
Yeah.
First thing
It's
I
the same
ask.
with an email list. You know, you can have 50,000 people on your email list, but if only 1,000 of them open it a month, you've got a very low open
Yeah.
rate. So open rates matter.
Yeah.
Click-through rates matter. You know, what are people engaging with? Again, people just need to, you know, what are important metrics for them to look at? And then what strategies do they need to improve some of those things? And again, you can't do everything at once, but you want to make informed choices in our businesses, because it costs a lot of money to run a business. There's, you know, the operational expenses, they can be from low to a lot, but even just the infrastructure of a membership site, you know, just in my case, for example, I have a page, you know, multiple pages of things that are the fees that are involved with running the IAJW.
Anything online, you've got all the parts of and they're small, but they add up.
Yeah. And they're not necessarily small, because the bigger your email list goes, the more, like I spend almost 400 a month just for MailChimp, which is my email provider.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
So, you know, the more you have growth with any part, you know, there's
I think there's cheaper programs out there that might be better. I don't know.
It's volumes of emails as well. But the point is, you need to know you need to know your expenses, you need to know your revenue, you need to know your metrics that, you know, are relevant to the growth of your business, your membership. Yeah.
And again, even just starting with one or two, like the things that you can then play with and work on, because you aren't going to be working on a big visibility push at the same time. You're going to be working on a sales push, or that you're going to be working on improving the contents, or, you know, it's all, or learning something new, right? So you have to decide what's that critical thing that you're just checking into every month. And, you know, I only have a couple things. It's like these conversion numbers and to me, it's less about the cost and more about the percentages. And then once I know the percentages are good, I work on reducing the cost to get that event happening. So it's just very simple for me. It doesn't take me very long, but it's a great place to start, because you've got to know that something's profitable, and you've got to know that it is relatable. And, you know, at your point, you know, when you've got hundreds of members, you know, and if you know people are staying as well, but when you're in the first couple years, you're still trying to verify those like obvious things that can optimize the whole process, like the make or break the future flow happening.
Yeah. And also, not every person who has a membership will also have an e-commerce store.
Right.
So, for example, there's people who buy things in our journaling store that, as I said, has over 60 offerings, who never become members.
Right.
And then there's members who buy things in our store and they get their 20% member discount. So the store is, you know, they're two things.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, just like a lot of people with memberships have higher level programs and they have, or private coaching or whatever, that can be their other thing that they have that's offering more. So that's, yeah. So a store is a little more complex in terms of if you're for a second offer to have in a business. I mean, it definitely makes sense for you, but it's not as easy than if you've already done private coaching in the past and you like doing that, you can formulate a lower tech option for your next offer.
Yeah.
So
because the store, if someone, let's say, buys a course in our store, when they log in as a member, that course is there in the courses tab. So all that has to interface, together, which is where some of the technical complexity.
Okay. So what are you using for your software?
I use WooCommerce for the store and Woo membership, Woo affiliate, a lot of Woo suite products. And then I use LearnDash as the place where I build the online courses. I did have a third party platform that I used, Jigsaw Box, that went out of business. I brought it all in under the one.
And what about community?
That's all in. I do have a Facebook group, but that's one thing I'd like to grow into in our membership is a discussion forum that could be right in the member area.
Right.
That doesn't exist at this time, but we do have our live events, and people do connect in the Facebook group. So that's a growth area that's on.
But it's working for you,
to-do
right?
list. Yeah, but it could work better. I think it would be important to have a designated. I think it is important to have a designated discussion area that members can meet in.
Yeah,
but then you have to manage that. You
mean your Facebook group isn't just for members?
Well, originally it was more of an open.
Group. I see.
Yeah. So there's members and non-members that are in there. Which is fine. They all still are there talking about journaling, but it makes it. It'd be good to have another place where people could connect that's more owned in the realm of the website itself versus a third-party platform.
And make it more exclusive. You might grow your membership a lot if you actually had a separate space for that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing all this with us. It's you've got a lot going on and you've step by step grown it. And it's been interesting to hear how you've done it. And sounds like there's a lot of really great things to come. So I'm excited for you. So where can people find you online and learn more about your journaling membership?
Yeah, we're at iajw.org. And it's the acronym for the International Association for Journal Writing. And there's a free gift there, as all sites should have a good free gift. I have a number of free gifts, but one that people really love is 7 servings of journal juice. And it's a series of 7 emails that come out over 7 days. And each one's filled with journaling inspiration and prompts and creative tools. So it's really fun. And I just want to say about what you said about another program. I'm just co-creating the Art of Journal Coaching, which will be a higher ticket program teaching other people how to use transformational journaling in their work with others. So it's for coaches, therapists, people who want to deepen their own use of journaling. And the other thing that I think can really help membership people grow memberships is to write an ebook or write a book on their topic. I know that's a big undertaking, but I've done 3 books inside of COVID, co-edited projects with a wonderful colleague, Eric Maisel. And those books help to create that thought leadership. So whatever your membership is on, if you can create a podcast or write an ebook or even something that just really puts your thought leadership out there on your topic, then you can be, invited onto podcasts. And it's just another wonderful way to share your knowledge and passion on a topic that can help you grow your membership.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, because it's true. Like, you've got to have that growing your authority, and you can do it on your own. You don't have to be invited to somewhere to demonstrate your authority. You can just put it out there on your own with those kind of mediums. So that's, yes, like everyone needs their body of work, like a home for it, somewhere out there in the public space, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a great, yeah. So thank you so much again for being
Yeah.
here. And I cannot wait to check out your membership. And I wish you all the best in your big growth.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I love it. It's so much fun, and membership is just an awesome way to build community. So I wish everybody the best with their membership, including you with Scaling Deep. I followed your work for a while and I love what you're up to. So thanks for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much.